Hi, everyone. Thanks for stopping by the Time We Discuss studio. Today I'm speaking with Titus, and it's time we discuss business and esports. Today on Time We Discuss, I have UEL Esports founder, Titus. Titus, thank you for joining me today.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So glad you're here. So, Titus, like that, you're the founder and CEO of Ultimate Endgamers League, which is an esport platform. At Time We Discuss, it's important to me that I identify careers that people can aspire to enter, either at the start of their journey or even a career change later in life. So for you as a founder and CEO, that's really being an entrepreneur at the core. So
Yeah.
I'm going to throw these three questions at you, and then we're going to see how far we can go down this rabbit hole. So
Okay.
three questions at once. At this level, UEL has been around for a number of years. I think 2020, I think is what I read. So I want to know what a typical day is like for you. Why esports? I want to know, is there a personal connection, an inspiring story that made you choose this? And then three, I'd like to know about the actual creation process of the company. So again, a typical day like, why esports and creating the company itself?
So a typical day for me now, I've been doing this full time for about 2 years. And the typical day right now is pretty much just either traveling to do the same thing, kind of promote, talk about it, go to different events, or being in the office and going on podcasts, different shows, just kind of getting the word out, talking to different brands, companies, podcasts, and letting everybody know. That's pretty much been a typical day for me. From when we're hiring, I'm doing interviews, but pretty much from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and sometimes we do meetings later on until like 8 p.m. So it's a long day of all talking. I pretty much never have a voice. So that's pretty much my day. I've always loved video games. I got into gaming when I was 4 years old. My dad introduced it to me. Started playing with Mortal Kombat and really just enjoyed the ability to kind of go into this virtual world and compete, and where there were no, there's no race, there's no, religion, there's no it's all just everybody speaks the same language, right? It's like music, right? Either you like it or you don't. And so I really enjoyed that. I love that about gaming, and found a lot of aspiration and joy out of it. And so left or didn't do anything with it my whole life pretty much until I did real estate prior for about 8 years, and then started to think about where I wanted to go next. And my wife suggested I should create a video game company, and that kind of got my brain going, and that's kind of how I got into the gaming world. And coming from real estate, it actually was a very easy transition, believe it or not, which we can get into. And then how it started is kind of so answering those two questions at once. Really, it started with that I was playing a video game. My wife said that, and I started doing a lot of research, and the creation. It's really the creation of a sport, which was no easy task. It was, figuring out all the rules and regulations. We have a massive booklet of rules and regulations for how we do things, and just a lot of trial and error, and so it's a wild ride for sure.
It seems like it. That is crazy. Now, going back to, you talked about traveling. I can't remember if you travel a lot, but there's definitely travel involved. Are you traveling within the country? Are you going internationally? What does that look like for you at this stage?
I was just in Qatar actually like a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. I was in San Francisco. I went to LA, Beverly Hills. Did an event in Atlanta, Pittsburgh. So really all over. Some overseas, some here. Was supposed to go to Rio, but ended up getting booked for another event, so I'm doing that instead.
Is anyone else doing promoting along with you, or are you like the guy?
It's me. I have my chief marketing officer, Awais. My chief production officer does sometimes as well, Polo. So there's a team of us that do it, but I'm really the guy when it comes to like the shows on stage, that type of stuff. I'm the face.
Does running a business run in your family?
Yep, my dad was very entrepreneurial. He started multiple businesses, and so I think I got that gene a little bit from him. I'd say my mom always wanted to run business, but she didn't necessarily start her own. So I think I got a little bit, I definitely got like the hard work gene from her. So it's just a little bit of a mix of both, I'd say. I'd say my follow through and my hard work definitely came from my mom. She was, you know, she worked 5 jobs to keep a roof on our heads and stuff like that. My dad was spent a lot of my childhood in prison, so I'd say a little bit of both.
Now, when I was talking to my wife that I was going to be speaking with you about UEL esports, she was like, "Esports, what is that?" So my question for you: did you find that to be challenging when you started to tell people like, "Oh, I'm going to start my own esports business"? Were people like, "Wait, you what? What was that
Yeah.
like?"
Yeah, definitely. It was a challenge. It was trying to first you had to teach them about what it was before you could tell them, you know, what you do. So that was a challenge. I'd say gaming is huge. So that became my focus to just talk about gaming because everybody knows what video games are at this point. And so we started out just calling ourselves, we didn't really do the whole esports thing or call ourselves anything in esports until very recently, once people started getting a lot more brand awareness. Then we kind of transitioned and did more of the esports name side.
How far back do esports go? Because admittedly, I know just the basics of it. I know about the
Yeah,
existence of it. I know very generally speaking what it is. But how far back do esports go? Is this industry been alive for 20 years, 10 years, 5 years? What does that look like?
yeah. The first esports league was in the 90s or either late 80s or 90s. Yeah, yeah, and it was Atari. They put together a couple different colleges and had a competition to promote their game to see who the best was, and they had a prize pool and all that stuff like that. And so that really became the origin of esports as it is now. And actually, since then, it hasn't evolved at all, which was really my problem getting into it. I looked at it from the outside and saw there was no evolution since its origin because I did a lot of research and found that with no evolution at all, it's continued. And that was where I saw we could step in and kind of help it evolve and grow something that would be more sustainable.
Now you said too that going from real estate into this industry was a pretty seamless change, I'm going to say. But talk more about that. What was that actually like?
So in real estate, I did real estate development. So I would actually go in and develop a community from scratch. So you know, find a plot of land and then build out, you know, where the community center would be and all those different things. So I did everything from a small 10 home community all the way up to a 2,000 home community. So essentially, once I got out of that and transitioned into this, I realized that esports is just community building too, right? So it's not necessarily real estate community, but you're still building a community and getting people to fall in love and see the vision and see how they can interact with each other within a community, which is all I was doing in real estate anyways. So I basically took those skills in building a community, applied them to building my own community, and then that allowed me to really be able to understand how to position myself, how to market, and how to make a successful community that I owned that I could then market to other people.
That's awesome. One of the things I like to parallel is that, you know, when people are changing careers, the best way they can take their skills they already have, leverage those, and then transition that into a new career. And that's kind of like exactly what we're talking about. You know,
Yeah.
you're forming one community, and then you kind of just took it from the physical world and then
Yeah.
plopped it in over on this virtual esport world. That's really
Exactly.
cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
Now, one thing I like to talk about too is education. Has your education background had anything to do with your current endeavor? Do you have a business background? What does that look like?
I would say in school, I did really well in school, but school never really was my like thing. I dropped out of high school and went straight into business. So ended up getting my GED very quickly. I think it was like 10th grade or something like or 11th grade. Um, 11th grade, start of 11th grade. And so did that, joined, tried to join the military, enrolled, got into a car accident. So never really got to go out to the boot camp and stuff like that. But then immediately started trying to find ways to make money through business and entrepreneurship. I did that. I mean, when I was 13, I was selling sneakers and candy bars and stuff like that. And So I always had that bug, and so I just kind of continued that. Once I got out of school, I ended up going to college to learn about things like marketing. It was like, part-time classes here, classes there type thing. But I found that school was better when I knew what I wanted to do. Because before I was doing really well. I mean, I had straight A's. I had like a 4.3 GPA when I dropped out. I did AP classes. It wasn't like school was easy, but I had no direction. I didn't really know where I wanted to be, other than I wanted to be in business or I wanted to make money. And so once I got that direction, school became a little bit more fun, and so it played a big role after in where I am now, and now really education as a whole plays a huge role. I mean, I'm all about research, reading, and learning about the things that I'm getting myself into well before I do that, well before I get into it.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Read up on it early and then make as few mistakes as possible before sinking a bunch of
Exactly.
time and money into it. Okay.
Exactly.
So your company, are you a corporation? Are you an LLC, an LLP? How are you registered?
Yeah, we're a Delaware C-Corp.
Oh, okay. Okay, Richmond.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. What was that process like? Was that challenging? Did you use like a third-party site on the web? What did you do for that?
Yeah, we hired a lawyer for that, and I mean, it was challenging. I've studied a lot of the tax law for like LLCs. I studied, kind of the laws for LLCs as well. So I understood LLCs really well, and we were in LLC for the first 5 years, or 4 years, and uh, so I knew that very well when we transitioned, and once we knew we needed to become a C Corp. That was tough because I no longer had the time that I used to have to spend researching and understanding it. So I really had to like kind of put my trust in to someone else, and so hiring a lawyer was important. Hiring an accountant and stuff like that. That all becomes very important in those areas when you can't do that research yourself.
What prompted you to change from an LLC to a C Corp?
It was really just investment. When we started doing our seed round, it was is we waited 4 years, or 4.5 years to do a seed round. And so once we decided to do that and we knew we wanted to expand, that was when it was like, okay, we need to become a Delaware C Corp because that's what most investors want.
Yep, yep, that makes sense. So going after VCs, what was that like in trying to get that seed money? What was that process like?
Horrible. It was horrible. It, it's um it's a lot of like you do a lot of reach out, you get a lot of people that like the idea, that are interested in the idea, that see the idea for what it is. But then you find out, oh, there's certain markets they only invest in, so they took the meeting but they don't necessarily invest in your market, so that didn't make sense. And so it's just a lot of you know 30, 40, 50, 60, you know meetings that kind of just go nowhere at all. But I will say, like, I've learned that in doing this, everything you do is to sharpen you. So every time when you're doing, 50 podcasts a month, you're sharpening your ability to speak about what it is you're doing, because each podcast will ask you something different. When you're doing 50, meetings with VCs, you're sharpening your ability to answer their questions, and kind of put yourself to know what they need and what they're going to be looking for. And so I've found that the journey is just as important, because without it, I wouldn't know all of the stuff that I know now to be able to answer and speak to all of the things that I do.
What do you think prepared you most for those conversations with the venture capitalists?
Research, definitely. Just research, tons of it, watching, videos. I was on a podcast and the person said, smart people learn from their mistakes, geniuses learn from the mistakes of others. And I thought that was a really good quote. Like, and so yeah, just researching how other people are doing, what they're doing. It's all online now, so you can pretty much read up on any type of story, and the mistakes that were made, and learn from those. You're not going to be able to subvert all of them, but it's definitely better when you take the time to research.
People want to switch gears and they want to do something like what you're doing mid-career, like the middle of their life, looking to change careers. What would be a good course of action if they wanted to get into the esport industry, or they just want to start a new business, what do you think would be the best way they could take whatever skills they've acquired and leverage those to do something like that?
First, I would say put it down on paper, write it down, talk to people about it, create a business plan. You have to take it as serious as you want others to take it, and you have to look at it for what you want it to be, not necessarily what it is. When it was just an idea, I had to see it as this big corporation, in order to get people to see that vision. But you can't force anyone to see that vision. You have to understand that some people will and some people won't, and that's nothing against them. It's more against you. Like if you aren't able to show it, then it's probably something that you're doing, not necessarily their problem, right? And so finding that out and doing that, I would say, would be the first step. Talk to people about it, write it down, put together a business plan, and see, is this something if you can't do that, you're not really interested in your idea whatsoever.
Going back, looking at the progress you've made over the past several years, what is one thing that you wish you had done sooner?
Search for more help. I did a lot of stuff on my own and thinking that I had to, as opposed to, and there was a lot of people that were willing to support me and help me and that saw the vision, that I didn't really trust them or trust that they saw it, the way that I saw it, or I didn't believe anybody could see it the way I see it. But now I do see, like, we have a really big team, and they do see it the way I see it, and they believe the way I believe, and it's their baby too.
So I was on your website earlier today, preparing for this conversation,
Hmm.
and I saw the video on there. You're being interviewed by I forget the woman's name, but you started to talk a little bit about the you had several late nights, you and your wife, talking about forming this company. Up to like 6 in the morning, trying to formulate everything. What was that process like? After those like 3 days, did you pretty much have it like the framework entirely sorted out? What was that like?
Man, that was a lot. That was horrible. In a good way, but it was a lot of like, it was uncomfortable because I was so used to being able to sell people on a vision very quickly. With my real estate background, 8 years of just very successfully selling, people on a vision of buying a home or a community or land or whatever. And so that was what I was used to, and now I'm being asked to write all of these things down and take it out of here and put it down here, and so that other people could see it and other people could understand it. So it's just extremely uncomfortable. But like I said, doing those hard things, doing those things that made me uncomfortable, made me more confident in being able to show it to others, and showcase it. But that process was like, I mean, there was a lot of things that I was trying to explain that just weren't coming through clear. And I always felt like in the beginning, I would feel like it was that other person's fault, like that they weren't understanding. Like it's my wife's fault, she's not understanding. Um, she just doesn't know, or she's just not a gamer, or she's just whatever. When in reality, I really wasn't explaining it the way that I know how to explain it now. And so that process was definitely like it's a huge learning curve, and one that I think is repeatable if needed. I could repeat. I know now how to kind of subvert those issues, and make sure that I don't have them in the future. But it took a long time for me to really fully understand the benefit of that.
Okay. I can kind of relate to that because sometimes I have similar conversations with people about they're trying to explain something and it's like, well, they just don't get it. And you
Mhm.
sometimes fail to realize like, well, it's not them, it's me. I'm
Yeah,
not the one that's being
yeah,
clear. So I
yeah.
understand exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
it's easy to kind of pass that blame, much easier than looking inside.
it totally is.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this. Invariably, when starting a business, it gets to the point, if you're growing it, it gets to the point where you have to decide, am I going to leave my full-time comfy job with my benefits and my guaranteed income to pursue this, I'm going to say dream for lack of better words.
Hmm.
What was that process like for you?
Yeah, great questions. So I it was about 2 years ago. I was at the top of my career. doing really well. And my company approached me, and my company I was working for at the time approached me and said that I had 1 week to either shut down all operations at UEL and close the business or sell the business, or I would be fired from the company. Um, so that process was stressful. I mean, I didn't stress it, to be honest. At that time we were making no money. It was 2 years ago. We were making no money. There was no income whatsoever. We didn't really have a whole lot of promise, but I still saw the vision at that time so clearly that when they approached me with this, I called my wife and I told her what they said, and she said, "Okay, well, I know what you're gonna do." And I was like, "Yep." And that was the conversation. I mean, that's pretty much. She was like, "Okay." So yeah, didn't back down. They fired me right on time, like they said, and never looked back. I mean, it's been 2 years, like I said, and now we're doing really well. We're doing really well for ourselves. We've been able to move this needle forward. We have 80 plus people that work in production and all those other places. So it's grown a lot. We have an email list over 150, 200,000 easily of gamers that are a part of our ecosystem, and we travel a lot. We're doing a lot, so it's yeah, it was well worth it. But man, that was a wild moment.
That's a really, really awesome story. That's very inspiring. And I think a lot of people that they get to that point when they need to make that decision, that's a tough decision to make. It's, do I stick being comfortable or do I gamble on myself? And that's huge. An awesome story. Thanks for sharing that one.
Yeah, thank you.
Titus, this is the part of the conversation where I like to ask a surprise question. It has nothing to do with your job
Okay.
or what you do. So today's question for you, when you're trying to find a place to live, we often choose a place that checks most of the boxes. Perhaps initially we think it checks all of the boxes. Looking at where you live, not only the physical space, but also, the neighborhood, your state, etc. If you could change one thing about where you live, what would it be?
That's a great question. I love my house. Maybe living closer to where our arena is. Yeah, that's the best I got for you, man. I love my house. I built my house, so it has everything I want, nothing I don't. It's in the perfect community. I have the exact amount of land I want. Like, yeah, that's the best I can do.
No, that's perfect. That's exactly the kind of thing we're looking for.
Yeah.
Titus, one last thing before I cut you free. I always like to ask my guests, to talk about a project that they're working on, something they believe in. If you want to talk more about UEL and what it is and how people can get started with it, it's up to you. But I'd like to discuss something that means something to you. So the floor is yours.
So yeah, so we're doing season 9. We're going to be doing $1 million cash prize. It is free to enter. So if you're interested as a gamer and you want to get involved and play in the competition, you absolutely can do so. Register for free at uelesports.com. Yeah, and then we have our finals for season 8 happening June 8th at the DeVos Theater in Michigan. So yeah, if you're interested, definitely come out. Check us out. And like I said, it's completely free. We never ask you for any money at all. So as a gamer, if you want to join, feel free.
That's awesome. And I'll make sure that I get the URLs from you. I'll include all those in the show notes. They'll go on the website, part of the podcast as well. I'll put them all over the place so people can find that information for you.
Awesome.
Awesome. Titus, thank you so much for joining me today on Time We Discuss. It was awesome speaking with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for popping in the studio. My name is Dan, and this is Time We Discuss. I really enjoyed speaking with Titus today. If video games are your thing, check out his links in the description. If there's a profession that you want me to cover, add a comment and I'll find that person for you. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. That'll do it. See you next time on Time We Discuss.